Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, good. Today Shivraj is going to talk about navigation in React Native. The fresher batch, whoever has not worked on the navigation tool, should actually look forward for this, because in a React Native project you will very frequently find out this. And I have been told by Sanket that there is a limitation in React Native, Navigator, when we work on this app. So Shivraj has worked on a Spring Tea project where he used this tool. So he'll also explain you why it is scary and what are those limitations, and probably he can give you some solution for this.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm here to talk about navigation React Native. So let me ask, what is navigation in general, not in any application or in React Native? What is navigation in general?
What you did from first slide to second, that was navigation.
So navigation is something like following a route or path to travel from one place to another. It's the same in any mobile application or React Native. So it gives a path to move around the pages. So why navigation? So navigation covers these concerns in mobile application: situational awareness, know where you are at and possibly where you came from. So it keeps tracks of the pages which we have in the applications. Functional, to be able to navigate, go back, undo, skip, and all these things. So if we have that stack, if we are keeping track of the pages in the application, so we can easily go back or navigate to one page to another easily. Infrastructure consolidate ceremonies that need to be done before entering any screen. So sometimes it may happen that we need to perform some functions before navigating to some other pages. So with navigation, it's very easier to perform actions or functions before we navigate to some pages. Why navigation is scary? Anyone? So navigation is like a root of our application. It holds all the navigation screens. And these screens have all the components and data. So actually it's the root of our application. So with navigation has all the data and everything. So sometimes if we have some bugs with the data and everything, it may be difficult to track those bugs with the navigation, because with navigation we can move around everywhere. So it's scary sometimes. So navigation in React Native, so these are the official navigators or navigation which were provided by React Native officially. The first one is Navigator iOS, which was introduced officially first. Like React Navigation, when it was open source, initially it was just for iOS, and the default navigator with this was Navigator iOS. So this was the use case for that. And to set up our infrastructure or the screens, we had to use switch cases or if else like this. And these were the actions that we can perform on those. Only those push and pop. These were the actions. Then with the introduction of Android with React Native, Navigator was introduced. Navigator was introduced and it was working for both Android and iOS. It was a JS implementation of Navigator. Navigator iOS worked on the native layer of the application. So Navigator iOS was just the wrapper around it, and we were doing all the navigation on the native layer. But with Navigator, it was a JS implementation of the Navigator, so everything was on the JS. So the use case was similar, which was for Navigator iOS. Then they introduced Navigator Experimental, as the name suggests. It was an experimental navigator, which was there for a long time. But with this, we had a lot of boilerplate code. We had to define our own reducers actions. We didn't get any action by default anything. We had to write our own reducers action to navigate around the pages. I remember with Spring Tree project, we had used this experimental navigation, and we actually forked this navigation and we introduced our own functions with this. So many people did the same. They forked this navigation and did their own implementation because the boilerplate was too much. So one of them was X Navigation, which used navigation experimental API with it, and they made the use case easier. Like they introduced functions. We need not write actions or reducers of our own, and they introduce some functions through which we can perform actions to go around the pages. Same was with React Native out of Flux. This was made much simpler. React Native, we have JSX, so this was the first and till date is the one and only library which use JSX to infrastructure or screens or everything. So this was the use case of Router Flux, and it's pretty much easy and simple. So they provided actions through which we can perform the actions to navigate through the pages. These were the actions. Action name parameters. Action name is here, the page to which we are navigating, and we can pass parameters to it. And action pop to go back to the previous screen and all. And action refresh to refresh the page or re-render the page with some parameters. Yeah, so with Redux it's pretty simple. We just need to connect our router and use that as a wrapper component for the screens. Yeah, then React Navigation was introduced in React Native 42, I think. Then React Native Experimental was deprecated, which caused the few libraries like X Navigation and Router Flux not to be used because it used experimental navigation. So now Router Flux also uses navigation internally, so it is supported now. But the official navigation which we have with React Native right now is React Navigation. So it is also pretty simple. As you can see, this is a stack where we can define the screens and initial route, and this is a prop which is provided by the navigation to navigate through the screens, and these are the functions: navigate to screens, and state, which holds the state tree of the navigation. Set parameters, which is similar to refresh of Router Flux. Go back to previous screen. Dispatch is actions which we can perform on the navigation, like any of the actions which are there above, like navigate, state. With dispatch we can perform any of them. Yeah, with Redux it's a little bit complicated. There is no proper documentation with Redux, so it's pretty complicated, but we can go through the issues which will be helpful. So with Redux what we have to do is we need to set an initial state of our navigator, then pass it to the reducer, and that reducer can be used as one of the state prop for our navigator. Then we can connect the navigator and use it as a root navigator for the whole application. Yeah. So this is a simple application with Router Flux, where I have only, just a second, sorry.
You can please the mic and experiment. Want this?
Yeah. This is a simple application with router flux where I have only two screens. I navigate from 1 to 2 and back to it. This is pretty simple. And here is the code. Yeah. So I have this two scenes and I will navigate from, I have this action to go to page 2. Similar, from page 2 I will pop to page 1. This is pretty simple. This is R and RF, that is router flux. Yeah, so this is with React Navigation. This is also similar thing. We just navigate from page 1 to page 2. So the use case is something like this. We have in JSON format two screens where the initial route is page 1, and from page 1 we just use the prop navigation and navigate to page 2, and from page 2 we just navigate back to page 1. Pretty simple, right? Yeah, but we are using stack navigation here. With React Navigation we have many navigators. So one of those is tab navigation. I'll just use tab navigation here. Yeah. So I just changed the navigator to tab navigation and I've got two tabs here, page 1 and page 2. Similarly, we have draw navigation. So I will use draw navigation here. So to open draw we have, we need to use this. Yeah. Yeah, here's the door. So I just changed the navigator and we exactly got navigation or tab anything. So with React Navigation it's pretty simple that if we have navigation of tab or drawer, it by default gives us the native, not the native but similar to native. And we have props for styling and all for all these navigations. So this is pretty simple, but sometimes it can be complicated. Like for an app we don't have just the navigator of stack navigator or draw navigations. We can have, in many of the cases we have both navigation or stack navigation, draw navigation, and maybe tab navigation. So in that case it can be complicated. So I have one more example here where we have all the navigation in one app. So this is the app. So initially I'm using draw navigation, which has the initial route of app, and here app is itself a navigation. So I'll show you the code of navigation. Yeah, so app itself is a navigation which has other screens. So it has the initial route login. So draw is the initial navigation, but it navigates to initial route, that is app, and app has the initial route login. So by default the login is the initial page of our app. So from login we'll go to some page like home, but with stack navigation we don't have the home page here. We just have login and sign up. But we need some navigation to navigate to home page. In that case, we don't have navigation of a draw navigator. So in that case, what we can do is we can just simply pass the navigation pop of our draw navigator through the screen pops which is provided by the navigator. So we'll pass this draw navigation to app as screen pops, and here we will pass to the page. So we can simply use the navigation of stack navigation, or also through screen pops we can use draw navigation. Similarly for tab navigation we can do the same. We can just pass it through screen pops and use any of the navigation. It's not that properly given in the documentation, but if you go through the issues we will get to know that screen pops helps a lot for navigation in passing of pops or navigators from one page to another. Yeah. So some other popular navigators which we have on React Native are native navigation and React Native navigation, which works on the native layer. It's not properly on JS. It works on the native layer, so it's buttery smooth. But at the same time, we need to write some codes on the native code, so it may get complicated. And also, it doesn't support export because of the native code. So maybe the popular most influenced choice right now is React Navigation. So any questions?
Yeah, I think we'll have many questions.
How does Navigator keep track of your pages?
Sorry?
How does your Navigator keep track of pages?
Yeah, so I'll just show you. Yeah, here. So similar to like Redux, we have states. So with React Navigation, we also have states which holds all the state machine of the navigator. So it keeps track of each screen we navigate to, or we have navigated from. It's all in the screen state.
So every time we move to the next page, so it adds the state to the...
Yeah.
And this data is used to connect with Redux?
Yeah, same state.
Gaurav, you guys are facing some problems, right? No, really, like,
there was one problem with the tabs. It was not lazy loading. All the tabs were mounted at once, so my app was getting initially slow. So we found there was a configuration where we can lazy load the tabs. So that helped.
so what is the final goal, bottom line? Like which navigation should we use today?
We are still like using this React navigation, but not this.
Yeah.
I don't understand why do we need to add Redux to it?
Yeah.
What's the...
Yeah, we don't need to add Redux because Redux can be separate and navigation can be separate with
So
this.
I don't, in our, we are not integrated with Redux.
See, Redux might be needed, say, if you want to retain the entire state of the application, including the navigation. Like, if I want to get back to the same screen where I left the page. So, if that is a part of Redux, then it will just retain that.
But we can just we get the state with the navigation open. We can keep that into some.
Yeah, we get the whole state of navigation, so we can keep track.
Navigation of this was very complex and very time taking. So.
Alright. Any more problems which you faced into this? You were saying like drawer was a problem.
Yeah, but like initially it may get tough because the documentation is not proper, and with React Navigation the problem is if we don't structure our app properly we may face many issues. So like if we have drawer, so we need to add the drawer at the initial page. Like we need to have the drawer as a default navigator, root navigator. it may happen sometime if we don't structure it properly, we may
So
face
if
issue.
you nest a drawer inside a stack navigation, then it creates problem, you mean to say?
No, not like that. I'm saying like if we have a stack navigator, then we are using drawer, but the drawer is somewhere else, we don't need to use drawer at the login page. We need it at the next home page. But what happens is stack navigation is something like push and pop, and drawer is replace. So if we make stack navigation as the initial navigator and then drawer, then what happens is we need to push the page, and then it becomes messy that the transition between the pages and drawer becomes messy.
You guys mentioned that drawer was like with the stack navigation, drawer was appearing first and then the screen was pushing.
Yeah, if we are using stack and drawer next, then it may happen, because stack there is a transition between pages, and then drawer does this transition same.
Shankar, which navigation are we using with Noon project?
React Navigation.
React Navigation. Okay. So it's the default.
Yeah, it is the default. Something with 45 onwards.
Yeah.
Okay. But Saurabh wasn't very happy. He's not saying it.
Yeah, because the documentation is not proper. If we go through the issues, it solves many issues actually.
Let's contribute to the documentation then.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. No more questions? That's it? Jasbir?
You would go back to the screen from
Yeah.
in the slide, where does this have to occur? Like, suppose I have two screens.
Yeah.
And I'm using those two screens separately, but the same screen is I'm nesting it inside two separate navigators.
Yeah.
Then do we need to?
Yeah. So if we are using two nested navigators, suppose I have two stack navigations. So the first one, which is the root one, it has its own navigation, that is this.props.navigation, and the second one has its own. So sometimes we may need the navigation of the first one in the child. So that time we can pass the navigation of the parent to the child through screen props.
Suppose I have this screen and I place this inside a stack.
Yeah.
And that stack is placed inside a drawer again.
Yeah.
So then this navigation problem will make the stack.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I have my screen.
Yeah.
I place it inside a stack navigator.
Yeah.
That stack navigator is placed inside a drawer again.
Yeah.
So which navigation will you take, a drawer or the stack? My
So mainly what they recommend is to use the draw navigator as the root navigator, because most of the time what we have is we replace the first screen with the next one, login to home. So they recommend to use draw navigation.
suppose if I use this dot browser navigation
Yeah.
inside my screen.
Yeah.
So that navigation will be which navigation? The stack or the drawer? Stack.
A stack.
Stack.
Yeah.
So if I need draw navigator navigation, then I use this.
Yeah.
Screen drawer.
Yeah.
Anything which you need from the parent level, you need to pass it like this. The current.
And when you say that the navigation executes in the native layer, it means the transition animation.
No, not with React. React navigation. It's with native navigation.
No, even with React navigation, the transition is on the native layer, so it's fast compared to the normal navigator.
Yeah, but it's with JS implementation.
No, it's not just the transition is on the native layer.
Yeah.
The transition, but everything else, the configuration is on the JS engine.
Yeah.
And that's why React navigation is faster than the other older implementations. Alright, any more questions? Okay, fine. So that's it. We can have a round of applause.